All right. Thank you, everyone, for showing up for the last session of the day. We have Dean and Shay from eCreators who will be presenting on Moodle for the Enterprise. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. It's a very early start for me and a late one for you. As I've heard, it's at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, I understand, and 6 p.m. in other parts of the world. And now later again, even here, or earlier again, even here, we ran a session just earlier this morning at 2 a.m. So we're burning the midnight oil, literally, down here in Australia. I wanted to talk to you about Moodle for Enterprise today and give you a bit of an insight, I guess, into how we think when we're deploying enterprise sites and some of the things that you should look out for when you're deploying enterprise sites. So we are eCreators. We're a Melbourne-based organisation, so Melbourne, Australia, also with a presence in Singapore and most recently through an alliance with Fortech Solutions, who you may have met during the Moot in the USA as well. We do have quite a number of organisations in the USA who use our services. Obviously, we won 2019 Global and APAC Partner of the Year, which was great. That was for our contributions towards the Moodle project and the work that we've done across various institutions and schools and the like over the last 8 years since being a partner. And we're also a major sponsor of Ticker TV. So Ticker TV is a new type of TV. So it's not your traditional sort of CNN or normal sort of commercial channels. It's very socially driven, very much like a live version of YouTube, which talks about innovation, a lot about EdTech and the like, and we sponsor a lot of the EdTech initiatives through that medium. A little bit about me. That's me. I look similar to that, I think, most of the time. Crazy. I'm the founder and CEO of eCreators. We've just entered our 14th year of business. So I'm very much the idea engineer, if you like, at eCreators. So I'm the one who travels around, not so much more, but trolls through various pages and those sorts of things, looking for new ideas and new information, new ways to make learning a little bit better. So that's me. And I come back and I dump all those ideas on my technical team and my marketing team and the production team, and we bring them to life. So it's a really exciting process to undertake, and it's a great job for me to have. I love it that I can sort of get in there and create these wonderful things and have my own little workshop. So our clients are all over the world. I won't spend too much time on this. I'll just sort of whiz by, but we do have a fairly big footprint from where our clients live. So we look after organisations like Nissan, like Electronic Arts, Keppel Shipping, Hitachi, a range of different organisations. It's not just the big ones as well. We also look after a lot of mum and dad size organisations too. So we have products that are very configurable, that can be broken down into the enterprise stack, into sort of a big mid-tier, and then a large number of micro-sites also sit down the bottom there as well too. So the beauty of Moodle is it allows us to do that. So what is enterprise? Enterprise is highly scalable, highly interconnected, sometimes customized versions of Moodle. I say sometimes customized because where we can, we always want to avoid having to customize where we can, because when we customize, we can veer off in a direction and sometimes go down that rabbit hole where we don't know where we're going to end up. So it can really mess up the plan if you don't plan it and structure it properly. One of the things that we do concentrate on is simple. It's really hard to make simple. If you try to create any piece of software, for example, it'll generally end up being complex. There'll be more features than you might have imagined. There'll be different looks and feels. The user experience will be very much broken. To make that really simple, or to make any piece of software really simple, is hard. It's one of the hardest things in software development, and probably more generally in general product development, making things that are simple. So what we've embarked on is to create a tool called LearnBook, which is an extended functionality for Moodle, which makes that whole Moodle experience much more simple. It doesn't break the user experience. What I mean by that is If you travel from one part of the LMS to another part of the LMS via a plugin, everything looks the same. We don't want to break that look and feel. Each time your learners log into the system, they shouldn't be having to relearn how to use the system based on what features are turned off or on. So one of the things that we ask organizations is, what is it you really need to get started? So what are those sort of baseline requirements that you want to achieve the learning objectives for your organization, to achieve any compliance objectives or admin perspectives? So everybody has, I guess, to some extent, a different view of that. And so we'll have a bit of a look at those too. So these are some of the features, if you like, if you want to call them that are built into LearnBook by default. There's lots of them. Do you need all of them? The answer is generally no. There'll be a number of things that you will need. You'll need, back to another slide there. You'll need, things like basic reports. You'll need perhaps learning programs. You'll need an admin dashboard to see where you're looking at. You'll need custom certificates. But do you need a content library? Do you need a backpack or a skills matrix? That's something to be determined. So we like to call it pulling levers. So you've got all of these features laid out in front of you in an enterprise world. Which levers are you going to pull and turn on, and which ones are you going to push back and say, right, that's not something my learning community can benefit from for now. So I'm going to either leave that till down the track or not turn it on at all. It's really important though, not to give learners, your learning audience, everything up front. If you do that, they can be overwhelmed with features. And from a user uptake point of view, it's very, very easy to get a crowd offside. There was a time where one of the big social mediums, I think it was might have been Snapchat or someone, made a massive change to their user interface without consulting their learners. They went, right, we're just going to update this thing and push it out, and they've lost something like 10% of their audience overnight. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to slowly introduce features and changes to our enterprise learning systems. So breaking it down into three areas, being features, functionality, and price. So what are the things that are going to give me the most flexibility? How much do I want to pay for them? We don't all have unlimited budgets where we can build these massive constructions and giant pieces of software that need to be maintained, and we have to spend hundreds of thousands of years in maintenance and support costs. So what do we want that fits into our price, fits into our functionality range, and gives us the necessary feature sets that we need to produce enterprise level size? One of the most important questions to ask when you first start out is, who are your learners? So you really need to build that learner persona out, and most organizations don't know that. They build a system with the assumption of some knowledge or no knowledge sometimes as to who they are. So we really need to have a good look at our audience and what they're going to respond to best. And these are things like getting them sometimes involved in the overarching product design. So generally in our user acceptance teams, when we talk to large organizations, we'll generally ask them to identify a champion within their organization to be part of the process. With learner personas, we want to know what types of people that we're dealing with, what their main needs and drivers are, what types of behaviors they employ in their day-to-day, currently how they work, what are some of their issues with their daily work day, or how much time do they have generally to spend with learning in their work day. And then some of their pain points as well too. And pain points can be everything from how good they might be using software, what sort of generation they are, how they like to learn. Are they highly visual people? Are they multimodal? And then looking at some of the current interests. Where do they currently go to learn? Do they go to Udemy? Do they jump on YouTube, and are they very much self-taught? So it allows us to, by pulling all this information together, can really help us influence the design of the site. So it might change our influence on user interface, on what type of gamifications or rewards we're going to use. it really gives us a good snapshot before we actually start picking out tools and building something or configuring something. A saying we have around e-creators is this one. If you have to explain an interface, it's not a good interface. So what does that mean? Broken down really simply, if you need an instruction manual to put together your IKEA bookshelf, it's probably not well designed. Quite often with the IKEA bookshelf, the instructions aren't that great either. So that doesn't really help us from the start. A good example I sort of use, with this is the good old iPhone. So, it's the device that you pick up and you just start using it. Everything makes sense. The sun has a weather icon, the settings has a cog icon. So you don't need a manual, nor I don't think if you ever actually got a manual with an iPhone. You know how to get started, those basic features, and you also know where to find help if you need it. And a lot of the help is very well documented and good to go. So really think about your interface design as you sort of build out your site as well too. So, and again, a lot of that comes back to turning off a lot of the noise, all those things that you don't need. Do you need a calendar sitting there all the time? Do you need all these bright, shiny plugins and the rest? And generally the answer is no. So obviously there's questions you should be asking up front as well. And they come into developing user stories. So user stories are little stories that you ask yourself. So generally on an enterprise scale project, you'd use a business analyst, or sometimes it falls down to the role of the project manager, to create user stories. So user stories allow us to create imaginary scenarios, if you like, as to how our users will interact with the system. So I am a user, I want to be able to do this. I am a admin, I need to be able to print reports and have those automatically emailed to me. So think of it very much like a wish list at the start. From there, you'll be able to derive what elements of the user stories for both an administrator, for a teacher or a facilitator, and a student go into the build. The rest go on to what we call is the backlog. So they may be things that you consider down the track. But to get to your minimum viable product or version 1, creating all those user stories and building them out is a really good way to influence the design of your site and to get to that baseline product as quickly as possible. Another one to consider is access. And I say access in a few different ways. So one of the things that we're conscious of at eCreators is making sure that your access is mobility, or mobile rather. So, and I say that as in you can use different methods of authentication, for example, to log into the site. So you can use OAuth, similar to this. You could use Active Directory if you're using that inside your own organization for authentication, or another piece of functionality we've developed is called the backpack. So with the backpack, if you're a member of one LMS, you can easily take your skills and course completions to another LMS. That might be a new employer, for example, who might allow you access to be able to log into their new session. And then obviously the mobile devices that you might use as well too. A lot more people at the moment, for example, are sitting at home on couches, out in the park, in a car, in some instances, completing their education. So they're not going to be obviously in front of the good old computer. They're going to be mucking around with their mobile devices and the like. So we need to be able to allow them to access education through whatever types of devices and the like that they need. Obviously, when it comes to accessibility, as to how the screen looks and feels and those sorts of things, I think Gavin Henrik from Brickfield was here over the last couple of days, and he's the master of accessibility. So I'd be asking him questions more about that. Another thing you need to easily define in the whole speak as well too is when people do log in, they need to have a good understanding of why they're there. So that's the first place we take them when they log into Moodle or into LearnBook in this case. So a typical landing page might look like this. So it'll show me the courses I need to do here and the courses I've recently accessed. Simple as that. The menu collapses, so it's not noisy. Now here in this menu example, we've got every little feature turned on, but it's not visually distracting. I can log in, see what's coming up, see what I've accessed recently if I need to pick something back up, and log in. This is another sample of UI design as well too, and that notifications and the like are universally accepted. So when you're using iconification to build out your sites, make sure they're familiar icons. A bell is very synonymous with notifications. The chat balloon is, for anybody who's ever seen a cartoon or a comic book, synonymous with that. A shopping cart, and obviously a like as well. So all of these things really wrap into the one product. I've always been of the opinion that language is design, or design is language. One of the things that I think you sort of taught at school is that your language needs to be somewhat complicated. When I think back to some of my school days, it was like, you might get an essay that says to you, explain in 2,000 words or more why photosynthesis occurs. And you'd use all your big words to stomp that out and all the rest. Well, those big words aren't necessarily the best way to learn. If you need to read a paragraph 3 or 4 times before you understand it, perhaps it's not something with you, perhaps it's actually something with the writing. Now, the same applies to your content. So when you're launching content, such as this, it's just a basic shot of one of our off-the-shelf courses, but you can see everything's very, very clean. The space is clean, the text is very clean, it's very much written how you speak, and certainly UI is exactly the same as that. So with the user interface, it needs to be clean and pretty. So if I was to show you how we go about designing a UI, for example, we do something like this. So if I jump into this little tab here, for example, we use tools such as Adobe XD, which is really good for making up interactive mock-ups. So you don't get too far down a path where you're building enterprise sites and then you go, oh, I really don't like that. Now, if you've already cut code and started rebranding and writing some CSS and doing all these fancy things, it's really hard to undo that. So with Adobe XD, it allows us to create interactive mock-ups so we can see, right, what's the sign-in process going to be? So, okay, I can use any of these open authentications. What happens once I log in? Okay, well, here I can see a certificate screen of previous certificates that I've got. So this is a custom UI that sits over the top of Moodle. And it's always good to have things that sit over the top or plug in, but not change core code. You don't want to sort of get down that path of changing core code, because if Moodle comes out with a wonderful upgrade that you love the look of, that can have really bad detriments down the track, because all your old code can be overwritten. So we want to make sure it's sitting on top. So here I can see my team, for example. So I can easily see, how I want that screen to look. So I want the user's name to be there, how many courses they've completed, and I want to be able to talk to them directly to catch up with them. I also want to be able to look at those team members by department. What courses I'm enrolled in, how far through I am with those courses, how they plug into gamification tools like MoTrain, for example, how many points have I collected as part of that course. And then if I need to revisit it, again, with using clever iconification, I can just jump straight into that module. And again, they're broken down by various categories. So what's popular, my programs, courses, and obviously the catalog. Same with the profile. So break it down really, really simply. So these are courses I've added to my little wish list. So that little heart I mentioned before. And this is my learner profile. So this is all about me, how many course completions I've done, how many program completions, and how many skills I've acquired. And skills are very different to programs. In Australia, we use registered training organisations. So that would be certified skills or certifiable skills from that provider that I can carry around with me. So you can see the importance of the user interface for not just your platform, but also for your content within the platform. Important for learners to always know where they're up to at any one stage. So we have that as a part of the learner profile. So I can see that all my skills are up to date at any one stage. I can see which programs and courses I'm enrolled in to see whether or not they're up to date at any one stage. If they're not, it falls into a notification loop. So it'll be 2 weeks before the assignment's due, or the course is due for completion, or the renewal's due, that learners will get notifications in a variety of ways. So they might just get an email notification. They might get a notification if they're using the mobile app, for example. So they get that little bling like you get off Facebook to let them know that either new things are available, or one of their skills is becoming deprecated, meaning that it's been expired and it's no longer valid, so they need to do the upgraded competence. Or it might be an annual refresher training they need to do. So it might be occupational health and safety at work. But having a single point of view where they can see exactly where they're up to in a really basic, clean format is really, really important. And a second element to that is if they need to be able to easily reach out for help, by able to be, message a manager or another team member or someone else to find that additional help and support. The other thing is being able to access, and this is sometimes a requirement, sometimes not. So this is one of those levers that you might pull. That's about accessing external courses. So your platform isn't expected to have absolutely every piece of education in the world on it. That's just never going to happen. But it can be a window to many of those things. So quite often you'll find organizations like Udemy and a lot of other training providers out there can give you access to their content through your LMS. So in a lot of instances, the way we manage it with a lot of sites at eCreators is learners can find an external course through our platform. So it still looks like they're living in our platform, but the courses actually live on another organization or another institution. They live somewhere else. We can add those courses and that to our carts, for example. That will automatically send an email notification off to a manager as a course request, and then the manager can approve or decline that request based on the cost or the relevance or how much money he has in his training budget, any of those sorts of things. So this helps you to further create a really wide learning ecosystem. So you're not just confined to the content that belongs on the system, but also the things all around it as well. Another one is roles. We've been getting a lot of requests recently about organizations saying, it's hard to sort of assign learning to cohorts without seeing who lives where, and some people belong in multiple cohorts, and some people should be getting notifications for just the executive assistant stuff and not the logistic stuff. And that was hard for people to really visually map out. They really struggled with it. So what we built as a part of LearnBook is this drag and drop organization chart builder. And the organization chart builder allows you to easily drag one field to another so that people can get different notifications or different enrollment sets, or be enrolled in different skills matrices or programs within the LMS, and easily get those notifications in a very visual way. So for example, if John over here was a member of the Rural Liaison Officer, for example, he was going on holidays, somebody needs to take over his role, we can drag a manager from over here into this part here. So it's really easy to have a visual sort of bird's eye view of your organization and where all the information and where all the skills flow. Again, just another way to keep all the good data that Moodle collects in a really easy to navigate and manageable sort of space. Another huge part is obviously engagement. And this is becoming, one of those things that's more and more important these days. So gamification is huge. Jeff Campbell, who is the director of MoTrain up there, we've been using it throughout the conference with all the coins we've been collecting. These things are great. I know as a leader of my organization, for example, keeping employees motivated and on track, it's hard. We've been developing a whole heap of different activities. So I sit down and I go, right, what can we do this week and next week and the week after that, just to keep that sort of that heartbeat of the organization going. So we've had everything from pajama day where every staff member got a pair of $20 Kmart pajamas sent to their home. And then we all got online and had pajama day. It was good fun, really good fun. Then we had pizza day. So we arranged for Domino's to deliver simultaneously a number of pizzas to everybody's homes at once, or the employees that we could touch with pizzas. It's not all about money and gifting. Some of these things are about recognition and conversation too. So we use a couple of different tools. And the other one we use is Perkbox. So Perkbox is a platform where you can get access. It costs you an amount of year depending on what sort of plan you're on, but allows you to reward employees for doing a good job or for living one of your values, great teamwork or great product suggestion or great innovative idea. They can log into Perkbox. There's a whole heap of different discount vouchers where they'll get 5% off at Safeway or 10% off at one of your department stores, for example, or it might just be free subscriptions to apps and the things on the App Store as well too. So being able to find other ways to reward your learners, be it a virtual badge or be it a physical voucher or something they can use, is another part of creating that overarching ecosystem, which is what the education system is all about. So I'm pumping you through all these different ideas at the moment too, so I hope you're noting all these down. These slides will obviously be made available, but if we're going to look at the wider ecosystem of an enterprise site, then video plays a huge part. Let's face it, if you want to bake a cake these days, you go to places generally YouTube. It is a place of probably more information rather than education. There are some very good education products on YouTube, but again, we want to be able to bring that inside our environment so it can be shared within our environment. So a company called, another US-based company, very clever guys, you guys over there, called Warpwire has created just that. It's a video platform which can give you analytics on which part of the video, whether it be on YouTube or your own made video, that people are watching, which parts they're finding important. It'll allow you to send that piece of the video to another learner or a group of learners. But again, it keeps everybody coming back to the LMS as that place where they share information rather than only a limited amount of people perhaps getting access to that video. So for example, how it might traditionally be done is I'll go to YouTube, I'll find a YouTube clip I like or that's relevant to me and my team, and I'll send it to half a dozen people. But there may be another 50 or 100 people who could benefit from that information. So by keeping it inside the platform, we can get a better result and a more uniform base of knowledge across the people within the organization, which is really, really important. Multi-tenancy, you've probably heard a bit about. Fundamentally, some organizations have the need for little Moodle sub-sites, if you like. So if you think of the big daddy Moodle site up here, and then all the little tenants that belong with that as well. So a good example is a university, for example. So you might have a university main site, and then every other little faculty will have their own little micro site. Now, from the main big tenant, you're able to share content, information, enrollments, notifications to all of those subtenants as well. So it'd only be fairly big size organizations that use that. We probably do about half a dozen to maybe 10 of these types of implementations every year. But it is really good for member-based organizations, again, higher education organizations, or any organizations. A good example is an organization called Northrop Grumman, who we look after over in the US and Australia and in Europe as well. So we've got one site, which is the central site, which is the US site, which is in English, and then we've got a French site and a German site and an Australian site. So you're able to distribute content to all those different regions, but in their localized languages, for example. So there may be use cases that you can see where that might be helpful for yourself as well. Now, infrastructure. So infrastructure is the thing for all the turbo heads out there who love to speak about web servers and redistribution caches and all this sort of wonderful stuff. But infrastructure is really important, especially these days. I mean, we need to be able to provide a consistent level of service. I mean, one of the big things that we saw when coronavirus, the first wave sort of hit, was how unprepared a lot of organizations were. They were running, in a lot of cases, internal systems where only one person, perhaps in the organization, had working knowledge of exactly how it was put together and how it worked. And they weren't designed to handle mass amounts of users at scale. So as a result of that, a lot of them failed. To put all of your eggs in one basket, I mean, I think I'm not saying you can't host internally. Being hosted internally can work and work very well, and we do work with and support a lot of organizations that do it. But you've really got to think about some of the main things like load balancing, for example, so to make sure that from the time the first learner logs onto the system, he has the same experience, he or she has the same experience as the person who's the 500th user. So user 500 doesn't get along and the system's just ground to a halt. It's working really, really, really slow. Everybody has the same level of experience when it comes in. And that's obviously through setting up what we call expanding infrastructure. So where if things do start to slow down, then server 1 kicks in, then server 2 kicks in, and we give everybody that level of service. At the same time, especially from a cost perspective, we don't want all those servers running all the time too. So when everybody goes to bed at night, everyone turns out the lights, all of those servers that scaled up, scale back down to just that one little one that's running your database and your caches and those sorts of things. So having a infrastructure strategy is really important. There's some good documentation around on this. A lot of it's free. You can go to Moodle.org and see a lot of maps there. And we also provide a lot of illustrations and things ourselves and assistance in setting that up. But certainly with online education in the current world that we're dealing with at the moment, having good infrastructure and some sort of disaster recovery process is also vitally important. You need to be able to maintain that level of consistency, quality, and uptime for your whole learner audience. So therefore, making a robust structure, again, really important. This is just another sort of illustration that our wonderful Shay from marketing put together. She's such a good, I wish I could draw. I just can't draw. I've never been able to draw. She does it really well. But anyway, these are some of the pros and cons of hosting versus self-hosting. So a really easy way to define self-hosting and cloud-based hosting. Cloud-based hosting means it's on our computer. Self-based hosting means it's on yours. That's pretty much the difference. There's a couple of different offerings that we have, for example. So one will be dedicated infrastructure where it's just you and your little computer, or more SaaS-based infrastructure where similar to a lot of other organizations out there, like your Dropboxes and Zooms and all sort of space, you're renting a little bit of space on a server with a whole heap of other people. And the vendor manages all of those ongoing expenses for you and charges you a flat rate. On the other side, you've got internal hosting. So you've got software licenses to put on those servers. You've got obviously the expense of the hardware, support personnel, maintenance, training, and all of those other wonderful things that go along with building out self-hosting as well too. So I'll admit I'm an advocate for cloud-based hosting, but there are ways to optimize your existing internal hosting stuff as well too, should that be your choice. Really important, and probably this is probably speaking a bit more about your extended strategy in the enterprise space and other spaces as well, but it's really important to think about the things that surround learning and what makes learning enjoyable for your learners, what keeps them coming back. And there's so much that surrounds learning. I mean, if you think about your first ever, think about your favorite memory from high school or university, what comes to mind? It's generally not, that math class where I figured out that algebraic equation, it's generally a social type interaction. So where you can create those types of social interactions around the things that you're doing inside your LMS, the better. That's some of the secret and the sauce. You know, you need to have learners come into the system. I'm not saying they're going to run home to their partners or whichever, or their cat or their dog, and say, "Oh, I just had the greatest time learning today." It's not really going to happen. It's not what it's about. But in saying that, though, it shouldn't be a cumbersome task to have to log into LearnBook every day or into your Moodle site every day. It should be something that you're okay with, you know, because you go there, you know, there's a place you can chat, you know, there's a place you can find information. It's easy to find, it's easily accessible. You can do what you need to do and do it well. You're not running into technical difficulties or bad UIs or any of that sort of stuff. So think about the things that you had when you were first learning that you really enjoyed in your school, and see what can be applied to the design of your site. I have no doubt that the LMS has a bigger role to play in the culture of organisations. You know, learning, communication, and culture, as it says just there, you can read it yourself, do go hand in hand. So where we can connect and socialise that learning experience, I think it's all for the better. I think, you know, what some of our LMSs are lacking these days is that sort of social element. I mean, we've got LinkedIn for business, we've got Instagram for, I don't know, taking selfies and, you know, doing all this sort of stuff, Facebook to connect with family and friends, and they all have a fairly similar sort of look as well. And we're constantly working on this problem as well too, as to how do we solve those four things, where you can connect with other learners, you can socialize with other learners, you can create learning assets or good learning, and you can also obviously learn for yourself at your own pace or with others in teams or the like as well, or through some of those external mechanisms we mentioned before. And we're constantly working on new ways to do that. So one of the things that's on the drawing board, I'll give you a sort of sneak peek at the moment, is more of a social wall for Moodle as well too, where you can do those things. You can like comments, you can write comments, you can share information, share videos, and those sorts of things, and then link to other parts of Moodle to do different things as well. You can collect various media, so all of the things that you've ever uploaded to your feed or things that you've liked, videos that you might have liked, be able to play those videos back, you know, directly inside the Moodle experience without having to jump into an activity. So it is a lot of those different things that bring groups together to be able to learn in different ways. And that's important, not just in a social ecology, but certainly in a learning management system. You know, we all use tools differently is a big one. And, an example I often use is the first telephone. The first telephone was useless. Bold statement, yeah. Hopefully a lot of you are thinking of it though, because if I didn't have anybody to call, well, this thing's not going to do much for me. So to start with, the telephone wasn't a big deal until heaps of other people got telephones, and then we were all able to communicate. So this is very much the same sort of pretense with Moodle. It's if only one person can access it, then it's not doing the best for us. So being able to configure Moodle in different ways and to take advantage of these tools and to get that outreach right across the organization where everybody has a role to play, everybody has access, everybody can communicate with each other, again, must come into your design. A little stat I wanted to throw at you too was about the loneliness epidemic. So we did some studies pre-corona across our own client base, which told us that 70% of learners surveyed have experienced workplace loneliness. You know, that's so bad. I'd say it's probably more like 95% now. I know a lot of our teams are functioning really, really well. We're doing a great job. We're probably seeing more output than we would normally in a 9 to 5 sort of office day. But in saying that, people in their personal lives, they can't go and visit their friends at the moment, and There's restrictions on weddings and funerals and all these sorts of things. So again, to give you an example with ourselves, so we have our own learning management system, obviously, you'd sort of expect that, where we connect once a week just for a general chit chat. So we'll jump on there, we'll exchange ideas, we'll share stories. Another thing we did recently with the pizzas and pajamas and those sorts of things is set out jigsaw puzzles. We've had a really successful trivia night where everybody got involved. We broke into little Zoom breakout rooms, which worked fantastic, you've got to say. It was a hugely successful night as well too. So be conscious of giving your learners that break, and this probably more applies to your own sort of organisations versus necessarily your work organisations, but really break it down. Another big thing too that we're working on at the moment is at-risk communities. So we really make sure that these people are kept active. Obviously we're seeing high rises in unemployment and the like. We're seeing issues with aged care, Indigenous workers, underprivileged workers, NGOs and NFPs struggling to raise the finances they normally do too. So again, these at-risk communities require different things from the platforms that we do provide, but we're able to configure Moodle in ways that suits all of their needs. So what's it going to look like coming up? Well, these are some of the predictions that we're sort of seeing out there. So I put together a bit of a slide here. I won't go through all of it. You can obviously take this away and have a look at it. But some of the things that we saw before Corona and some of the things that we'll see after Corona. One of the big things to really focus on, especially in the workforce, is that reskilling piece, where we go from coal miner to coder, for example. So the coal mines are shutting down. So you're going to have a whole heap of people with a whole different skill set that doesn't match any of the requirements for jobs out there. So how do we deal with that? We've got to reskill people from that industry to become something different, to learn new skills or to be able to transfer those skills to something else and fill those skill gaps with different pieces of information. So this could be information on the job, or it could be information from external institutions which can help to fill those gaps. We're going to see a lot more peer-to-peer learning these days. So there's so many people working from home and working remotely. The mentor industry is going to be a big part of the gig economy. So we're going to start seeing a lot of people who are professionally qualified, perhaps who want to register as a mentor to be able to provide their services and knowledge to those seeking it, become more available. So keep your eye out for that. And then we're also going to be, there's going to be more focus on lifelong learning. I think, in the various stages of lockdowns that organisations have had, people have sort of got over the initial excitement and difference of it in the first couple of weeks. And that turned into, okay, I better do something with my time. With gyms closing and those sorts of things, people may be putting on a few extra kilos, guilty. But I think people are taking more of an approach to that. Okay, I should be doing something new inside this funny time. So more people are going to be putting that little time aside to learn something new while they've got the time and the flexibility to be able to do it. But I'd like to see that it is a good spread. Education doesn't necessarily have to happen in a classroom. It can happen anywhere. I often say to my staff at the same time too, it's really important that you don't just go to EdTech conferences to learn about education, for example, because it's everywhere. Our content team, for example, our content design team, certainly pre-corona, used to take little mini excursions where they'd all go to an art gallery together, for example, and just see different forms of art which could influence the artwork that they create or provide. So everything comes from somewhere. And then obviously the skills market's going to be a big one too. So skills providers, verified skills providers, are going to be instrumental in providing courses which would allow for the evolution of transition into new jobs or upskilling. A couple of case studies. I'm just conscious of my time there and allowing for questions and things. This was Northrop Grumman, so 3,000 active employees across two continents, actually three continents there. So I'll change that later. But they went for a dedicated hosting environment with LearnBook. Again, multiple languages, multiple regions. I've got a few here. I'm not going to go through them all. Obviously, a very topical one for us in Australia here at the moment. We heard about our bushfires. So we're now working very, very closely with New South Wales Fire and Rescue. We were working closely with them beforehand, now even more so, providing training for their volunteers and also for their rural fire services as well too. And that's everything from safety training through to where do I find the hose on the truck. So a lot of highly visual courses and the like, a lot of mobile learning so they can use their phones out in the fields and out in the remote regional areas to be able to access the learning as well. And we've created over 100 e-learning modules for them as well. GenU, so a big not-for-profit. Unique challenge here, so you're dealing with generally long-term unemployed in a lot of cases. We also developed two other platforms. So there was a job seeker platform, one for internal employees and another professional development platform. So if you like, a version of multi-tenancy. And we had to share functionality from one LMS to the other as well too. So again, a big sort of planning exercise for that. The way we conduct that planning exercise is we conduct what's called a learning lab. So a learning lab is a time where we'll sit down with an organization and we'll take you through this whole process. Once we get an understanding of exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve, we'll come back to you with a really comprehensive paper, which has got all of the ideas, plans, charts, questions answered, costs and those sorts of things, of course. You can take away, you can use with us or you can use with your chosen provider. But it does give you a good 360 degree view of what it is you're trying to achieve. Government clients, same sort of thing. So again, dispersed as Australia is, a far-reaching sort of program there as well. Positive partnerships. So they work with one of our other partners called Arlo, which provides a lot of face-to-face training. So we were able to build quite a comprehensive platform there as well to really merge the online learner with the classroom-based learner through really effective plugins. You know, sometimes out of the box, Moodle won't have the things that you need, or it doesn't work in the way that you want it. There's a lot of organizations out there that can help with that. So, you know, with analytics, you've got, you know, organizations like IntelliBoard for classroom training. You've got your Arlos, Walkway, you've got your video. Obviously, Zoom is a plugin for Moodle as well too. We're all sick of it, but we're all still using it. But there are a lot of third-party providers out there that can help with your overall mission. Partners, obviously. So partners we have over here. So Fortech in the USA, and also eLearners Online in Singapore. So we have a few there that can certainly help us out. Another little screen there. I did have a screen on this earlier, I think, but is chill out time. Allow your learners some relaxation time where they can, if they've been spending too much time perhaps on the system learning and playing around with a number of different courses, or spent many hours doing the same thing over and over again, there's other things you can do. So this is an application called Calm, for example. So Calm allows you to have a bit of chill out time, some meditation time, watch a happy video, do a happy exercise, do a physical exercise. So think of, again, as part of that sort of cultural center, that you're not just forcing students just to learn all the time, you're giving them a bit of a break from that day-to-day routine as well too. So there's lots of things that we can plug into Moodle to extend that experience. Most importantly, keep on learning, you know. Remember different groups that you go and visit, different conferences you go to, offer different experiences. There's so many webinars out there at the moment. A lot of them are free. You know, live on the edge, I'd say. Go out there and do something that you haven't done before. It may be something that you might think is incredibly boring, but type in free webinars now into Google and you'll be surprised at what methods come back, and you'll be surprised by mixing with different people, doing different things, some of the wonderful things you create out there that'll really resonate with you that you can actually blend in to help make a part of your learning community. Really important to get out there and not to just stay here at wonderful things like the Mountain Moot, but to also extend that outside as well. Love the way you learn is our tagline, obviously, and it resonates with us, and it resonates with our customers and the people that use our products as well too. So learning should always be an enjoyable experience. So wherever you can wrap those learning experiences, or those e-learning courses, those activities in enjoyable activities, please give it a go. Your learning uptake will be much higher. Happy to take some questions. Obviously, you can follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter. We're very active through those mediums. Every week, we give away a free SCORM course, which can be uploaded to your LMS to have the sort of, from an artwork perspective, this sort of look and feel. And they're always based on trending topics around as well too. So happy to take any questions on that. Also, we have a LearnBook demo site set up where you'll be able to actively log in and see some of the feature sets and things that we have set up for LearnBook, where you can scroll through, have a bit of a look at the platform as well. So please reach out if you'd like to get access to that site. Sorry, my photo's in it, but you can probably play around with that as well and replace it with something far more goofy, I don't know. But the platform is available for your use as well. So you can get a feel for what an enterprise site might look for in the Moodle world. That's it. So please reach out to sales at eCreators if you'd like access to that. Right on time, I think. So I'm happy to take any questions if anybody's got any. I can't see the chat for some reason.
All right. We've got a little lull, so I'll do a quick bit of housekeeping. I want to remind everyone that we have this evening, we have at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, the Moot Money Bash. So hopefully everyone can attend that. For this presentation, please remember to go in and fill out the evaluation. That helps both presenters and the Moot organizers. And if you need your OPI credits, remember to fill out your digest for those as well. And looks like I don't know if we have any questions or not that are still left.
Yep,
your cohorts have been answering them in the chat all along.
Fantastic. Well, that gets me off the hook then. I'm fine.
And if anyone else has one, you should feel free to unmute.
Nope, that's fine. Well, I will let you rest in peace. And I hope to speak to you, more of you for the rest of the Moodle, or certainly after that as well. But again, if you want to look at that demo site, please feel free to reach out. I'm out of here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.